My name is Shayla, and today I am here to do the list of all lists for the year. As I did last year, I'm going to do my favorite reads of 2016 video. I do have 16 books here. I have rated each of them 5 stars. I love and adore every single one of these books. I read a massive amount of books this year. I'm going to do a 2017 goals video, and I will talk about my 2016 goal wrap-ups in that video, so you can look forward to that. But right now, we're just going to talk about my faves, and these aren't in any particular order. I love them all. They are all 5-star books to me. And let's just dig right in and get going. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Beauty by Robin McKinley. This book is not brand new by any means. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And this is one of my favorite retellings I read this year. This one just captured me. The writing was so beautiful. I love the way she worked with all of the characters, and I absolutely adored it. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend you do. Next up is going to be Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 5 in the Throne of Glass series. This came out in September. As soon as I got my hands on it, I devoured it. I adored it. I love where the story's headed. Yes, there were some problematic things in this book, and I will not say that there wasn't, but that didn't change my rating. My enjoyment level was sky high with this, and I absolutely adore it, and I can't wait for the final installment coming out next year. Next up was a big surprise on my list this year, and that was Blackbird Summer by M. Shotwell. This is comparable to the Beautiful Creature series. This is a paranormal southern gothic romance that I absolutely loved and adored. It deals with some gritty things, but I absolutely enjoyed it. M. Shotwell, the author, is an absolute doll. She reached out to me through Instagram asking if I would read her book. I absolutely enjoyed it. I ended up submitting pictures for a contest and actually winning, and that's actually the necklace I'm wearing today. And so I love it. It's a beautiful bird. It says Blackbird Summer on the back. She also sent another one as well, and she just sent me all sorts of goodies. She's fantastic, and I'm excited for her to continue on in this series. But definitely check out Blackbird Summer. If you liked that Beautiful Creature story and world at all, I think you can get enjoyment in this book. It's not the best book ever written, and I will never say it is, but the enjoyment level is sky high, and so I still recommend it for that reason. The next book on my list is Genesis Girl by Jennifer Bardsley. This is one of the... I got a little bit back into dystopians this year, and this was one of my favorites. This is book 1 in the Blank Slate series, and this is about Blanca, who is what they call a Vestal. Basically, someone who has been untouched by technology for the first part of their life. And then they are sold or auctioned off to be representatives of brands or whatever. Anyways, Blanca is auctioned out in a personal fashion, and the adventure starts from there. I am really excited for the next book in this series, Damaged Goods. The cover's already come out. If you're not following Jennifer Bardsley on social media at all, you should. You can follow her on Instagram at the YA Gal. I will leave a link to her feed down below. It's absolutely beautiful, so you definitely need to check her out. And this was just such a fun ride. I got to be part of booktube tours for this particular book, and it was a blast. Next up is actually a series, and that is the Life in the Zone series by Patricia B. Tai. This is the second book in the series, Life in the Lucky Zone, which also happened to be barely slightly my favorite out of the entire series, but I do think the entire series is very enjoyable, and you should read the entire series. In this second book, the male romance character, Berger, is very indicative of my husband, and so I think that's why I got more enjoyment out of this one as opposed to the others. All 3 are written beautifully, very fleshed out characters. You know where it's headed when you start reading it, but it's still really fun. There are lots of geeky references throughout. You know, drama geeks and normal geeks of all kinds can enjoy these books, so I do highly recommend checking out this series. It's a complete trilogy now. So go check it out. She's amazing. Next up is There Once Were Stars by Melanie McFarlane. If you guys have been on my channel anytime at all, you know I adore this book. This was one of my favorite reads this year. I absolutely enjoyed every moment of it. The author, Melanie McFarlane, partnered with me. We did the cover reveal through my channel, as well as through many other avenues. Her and I have become good friends, and that's not why I love this book. I loved this book before I got to know Melanie personally, and I do highly recommend it. This is a dystopia novel focusing on Natalia in Dome 1618. When you turn 18, you get a job in the government. And this book starts on Natalia's 18th birthday. Some stuff goes down. I don't want to give anything away. Read the book, read the book, read the book. Next on my list is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This was such a beautiful, gut-wrenching read. I read this in October and I absolutely adored it. The illustrations in this copy are absolutely stunning. I did not pick up the movie inspired copy because I wanted the illustrated edition. I felt like the illustrations added so much to the beautiful story, and if you have not read this, I highly suggest picking it up. Next up is Dawn of the Dragons by James A. Owen. I started this series this year. This is the Age of Dragons series, and this is just a fun book about three friends who end up in a situation where they're in charge of this map and they go on all sorts of adventures. The first two books in the series are in this bind-up, and I absolutely love and adore it. You will laugh. It is so fun. It is just nothing but an enjoyable ride. It's nothing too dense, so it's kind of fluffy. And fluffy in fantasy is kind of hard to find sometimes, but this was thoroughly enjoyable and I highly recommend you pick it up. Next up is the Stormlite Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I am almost finished with Words of Radiance. It will be done by the end of the year, but I thoroughly enjoyed starting this series. Book 3 comes out next year in November. At least that's what it's slated for at the time being. I hope it still comes out then, because with the way Words of Radiance is headed, I am like, give me all the books. Anyways, this is Brandon Sanderson's epic series. It's supposed to be a 10-book series. Each novel is a monster, and I've been slowly working my way through this. I've been doing the audiobook through Words of Radiance. I read this one in a readathon, and it was fantastic. But I love the characters of Kaladin and Shallan and Dalinar. It's this huge cast of characters that you just grow to love. This is very indicative of the Wheel of Time series. I personally have found more enjoyment in the Stormlight Archive than I have in the Wheel of Time series thus far, but I'm just getting into the Wheel of Time series, so there's that for you. But definitely check this out if you haven't. Next on my list is another Brandon Sanderson series, and that is the Wax and Wayne Mistborn trilogy. There is one more book to come out in this series. This is the third book in the trilogy, but this trilogy starts a couple hundred years after the original Mistborn trilogy ends. It's a whole new cast of characters, but you see glimpses of the old characters from the original series and how they're tied into this new story. I love Wax, I love Wayne, I love Steris. Like, this cast of characters may even be more my favorite than the first, which is really hard to say because I loved that first cast of characters. But Brandon is very much a character writer. There is a homosexual character within this trilogy. Like, he's branching out a little bit. He's always been diverse in race, but now he's diversifying in sexuality. So definitely check this out if you're interested in some diversity within your fantasy. Next up was another book that was a huge surprise to me this year, and that is The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend by Katrina Bivold. This is another book that I would call a diverse book. This is about a Swedish woman who she comes to Broken Wheel, Iowa to visit her pen pal who they've exchanged books back and forth. When she shows up, she finds out her pen pal has actually passed away. The town is still expecting her because she had kind of warned people that she was coming. And it's about how she decides to kind of stay there for a while to care for her friend's books and ends up opening a bookstore, and everything that happens to her. You deal with immigration, all those kind of things in this book, and I thought it was beautifully written and I loved and adored it. I can't wait to read it again soon. And if you have not read this book, please do, please do. I think it was absolutely lovely. All right, I'm going to take a break from holding up books here because my arm's getting a little tired. I do have 2 books on my list that are actually currently out on loan to friends. The first one being The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I finally picked this book up this year. It was absolutely lovely. It was such a fun adventure. All the imagery, it was very beautifully written. And again, this book has been all over BookTube. If you have not read The Night Circus yet, I highly recommend that you do. The other book that is out on loan is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikri by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is about a man who owns a bookstore. He's dealing with the death of his wife. One night, he's getting drunk, and all of a sudden, his most prized possession, which is a rare collection of Poe poems, is stolen from him. And it's about how his life kind of restarts from that point and the things that happened to him. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away. But this book was beautiful. I laughed. I cried. It is very well worth a read. I highly recommend it, so I hope you guys will go and check it out. Next up is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This is about a boy who is disfigured but is all there in the mind, and about how he decides to mainstream into public school, and about the experiences that he has, his experience with making friends and enemies that way. And it's just a beautiful story. I think every young person should read this book. You know, I was 30 years old when I read this book, and it was still really important for me to read. It's all about not judging a person by the way they look. It's about accepting the person for who they are and the beautiful soul that they have, because everybody has one. So I highly recommend checking out this book. It was a quick read. It was sweet. And I just love our main character. It's absolutely lovely. Seriously, Augie is just... I just want to cry thinking about Augie. He's so sweet. Alrighty, the last 2 on my list are manga. Again, if you guys have been hanging out on my channel at all this year, I'm pretty sure you know which 2 these are. The first being Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. It's a Japanese name. I'm really bad at pronouncing those. But anyway, Fruits Basket is about Toru Honda and about how both of her parents have passed away. Her grandfather's doing some remodeling and she ends up living in a tent. Her friend Yuki Soma offers for her to come and stay with him at his place. And it's about all the adventures, about who they are. This does have paranormal aspects to it. It's sweet. It's fun. I laugh so hard. I do cry as well. I have the first 8 volumes in the collector's editions. I've been loving and adoring the way this is playing out. The anime stops so abruptly. It does not end how the manga ends. So if you loved the anime but didn't like where it ended, check out the manga, because I think the manga's way better. And last but not least is Orange by Ichigo Takano. I read Orange in its entirety this year. There are 22 small volumes, 2 big collector's editions of this manga, and I just adore this. It's about a group of friends who send letters to themselves through time to save their friend from a terrible fate. And I thought this played out beautifully, and it was the unknown of whether it'll work or not, and this just makes me so happy. I have to share it with all of you all the time because I gush over and over and over this. The art in it is also equally beautiful, and I just love and adore it. So guys, that is my list for 2016. Those are 16 books that I love and adored this year. All of those were 5-star books for me, and you have to know that I just love and adore each and every one of them. So these are all books that I keep thinking about as I move on and read other things. These books keep coming back, and you have to know that they are wonderful. Go ahead and let me know down below what 2 of your favorite books were that you read this year, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.